4. Romans chapter 5, verses 2 through 4. Through him we have also obtained access by faith into this grace in which we stand. And we rejoice in hope of the glory of God, not only that we rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope.
Good morning. I'm going to start off by saying thank you. Thank you to the elders for allowing me to come here and work for you guys. It's been an absolute blessing. Thank to you all for just having me, being so nice to me, as this being my first internship that I've taken. Thank you to Jeff for working with me and everything we've had to deal with the summer, because this summer's been crazy. But I also want to thank the youth group for dealing with me and working with me with all the twists and turns we have had throughout the summer. And I'm very excited about what we have going on for the rest of the summer. It's going to be really fun. We're going to have a really busy, fun couple next weeks. So to start off, let me take you back over a year ago. I just graduated high school. I had plans to attend Freed-Hardeman in the fall. I had my life planned out. There was one key aspect I was missing, though, and that was money. I didn't have money, but I needed money for college. And luckily enough, my dad owns a handyman and repair business in Knoxville. And I've worked with him over the years, a couple days here and there, maybe 2 or 3 in a row if we're feeling like we really need money at that time. But nothing like a full-time job, nothing like anything. So I was under the assumption that it was going to be easy. I was under the assumption that I was just going to get up, go to work, come back, maybe go to work out after, maybe go play some basketball with some friends. I was prepared for that. I had what they call a rude awakening. Specifically one job. And my dad's grinning right now because he knows exactly the job I'm talking about. 2,300 square foot roof, start of June, hot. We stripped the roof and put it back on. It was our first time doing it, but it was fine. But if it's 90 degrees at the bottom, it's about 120 on the roof in the straight sun. And then even to add more things to it, we've already getting up in the morning to get up early so we can beat the heat. 0% chance of rain, so says the weather app. And then it monsoons. Fun times, right? But it takes a certain perseverance to get up in the morning, especially with jobs like that or jobs in general. Full-time jobs, not every time we want to wake up in the morning. School, we always don't want to wake up. So that's really what I want to talk about today. Is if I touch it again, it'll work. There it goes. It's perseverance. Because we're all in a trial right now. We all are suffering right now. Because right now it's a different time. Right now, not everything's normal because of COVID. So we all have something similar in a trial right now we're going. So really I want to focus on a question of how do we know we can persevere, or how do we persevere through times like this or trials and sufferings that we have in each of our lives. The Webster's definition of perseverance is to persist in a state, enterprise, or undertaking in spite of counter-influences, opposition, or discouragement. I'm going to change that definition up a little bit real quick. But I'm going to change it to persist in a trial, suffering, or hardship in spite of counter-influences, opposition, or discouragement. I want us to think about that definition as we talk about perseverance today and everything that comes with it. But real quick, I want to reread what John read for us, Romans 5, 2 through 4. Through him we have also obtained access by faith into this grace in which we stand, and we rejoice in hope of the glory of God. Not only that, but we rejoice in our suffering, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope. That is the verse that I'm going to hit on very much, and we're going to break down that verse just here in a minute. But I want to talk about trials for a minute. Trials with God. And I'm going to explain that title real quick. I'm not very good with alliteration where you get this lesson was brought to you by the letter P and then go through that. I'm not very good at that. Okay? So I go with stuff like this. But trials with God. I'm not saying we're having a trial against God. We don't have a trial where God is our enemy. I mean trials with God. God is right beside us. God is with us. He is with us through this trial. Because trials are terrible things to go through. And there's a number of what trials can be. We all have our own trial. Whether that be a diagnosis from the doctor, not a good one. Whether that be a death in the family. Whether that be death of a close friend or a sick close friend. There's a list of what trials can be. And we all have our own trial that we go through. Right now, as I said before, we are all going through the same trial right now with COVID. But there's other trials that each of us face right now. So let's realize that we all go through different trials. So when we communicate with each other, when we talk to each other, realize that there's probably something going on that side too. There's something that they're going through that we don't understand. And we can't understand because they're going through it. But I want to talk about how God allows trials. God allows trials to happen. Okay? He allows it to happen to not only prove our faith, because if everything was going right, would we ever really look up to Him? Because I know I'm guilty of this, but when things are going right, are we really praising God for things going right? Are we really looking to Him when things are all perfect? No, we look to Him when we're upset. When things aren't going right is when we look to God. We're like, okay, God, I'm going through this. I really need you to fix this. But then as soon as it's fixed and everything goes back to normal, forget Him. We don't think about Him anymore because everything's going good. What do I have to be? What do I have to talk to God about? That's not how we should be, but that's the reality of it. But He also allows trials that we can handle. In 1 Corinthians 10:13, it says, "No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, who will not let you be tempted beyond your ability, but with the temptation, He will also provide the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it." He is not going to give you a trial or suffering that you can't handle. He will not He does not like to see you suffer. He is not sitting there up top going, "Oh, this is going to be funny. Watch what he's suffering right now." No, that's not what God's doing. But God allows trials that you can handle. I believe we've all been at a spot where we don't think we can go forward. We don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. That, why would God give this to me because I can't get through it? Well, that's not true. 1 Corinthians just told us you can get through it. But a perfect example of that is Job. Job is my favorite Bible character besides Jesus. Okay, Jesus is the cheat one that you have to have a different one. Job is my favorite Bible character because of what he went through and what he got through. Job had probably the worst day in history. Because if we remember what happened, Job was a godly man. He was just a good person. He was a godly man. He did everything that God wanted him to do, and then some more. So when his kids were having parties, he went and sacrificed for them to make sure they didn't do anything wrong. So Job's covering all the bases. He's doing everything right, and that's all we get, okay? Well, then we remember as Satan comes up and says, and God asks, what do you think about my servant Job? Well, Satan tells him he's only worshiping you because you've given him everything. God says, okay, take it away. Just don't harm him. So in a matter of a day, a servant comes up and tells him that he lost his oxen and donkeys. Oxen for plowing the field to make money. Donkeys, same way, transportation, but not only to work the field. So he's losing money and he lost his way to make money. Okay? But then right after that, as he's still speaking to that servant, another one comes up, talking about you've lost all your sheep, all your servants. So sheep were also profit back then. They were. If you were wealthy, you had a lot of sheep. Well, he just lost all that. So now he lost all of his wealth. He lost his profit, his way to make profit, and his wealth already. And his help, his servants. He lost all of them. So he's lost all of that. But then probably the worst thing happens right after that. He loses his family. His sons and daughters are killed. So what feels, as I picture it, a matter of about 10 minutes, Job's lost everything. But he still remained faithful. He still endured. Then, Satan goes back up to God. God says, what do you think about my servant Job? He still remains faithful. Satan, he's only remained faithful because you didn't harm him. Everybody's going to be faithful if you don't hurt the person itself. God says, okay, just don't kill him. Satan puts boils, painful boils, on Job's body. And now he's hurt. And then the only person he has left in his life, his wife, looks at him in the eye and says, curse God and die. Why don't you just curse God and die? How much that must have hurt to have the one person that's supposed to be by his side and help him remain faithful, to be so downcast, to look at him and say, curse God and die. That is something to think about. Because even after all of that, Job remained faithful. Then Job had his friends come over. They didn't speak for a week. I definitely know in the youth group that some people can't stay without 5 minutes without talking. Nonetheless, a week. That is how bad he looked. That's how bad he was. And then his friends told him, it's your fault. It's your fault that everything happened. It's your fault that your family has died. It's your fault that your wife told you curse God and die. Job still endured. So if Job can still do that, why can't we endure? Why don't we have that same motivation to keep persevering, to get through everything that gets thrown at us? Okay? But now that I've talked about trials, moved on to joy with God. I want to go look back at the beginning of 3 and 4. It tells us to rejoice in our suffering. Well, that's crazy. Austin, what are you saying? You telling me to be happy when everything's going wrong? You're telling me that I'm supposed to be happy when I just lost a family member? You're telling me I'm supposed to be happy when I just got a bad diagnosis from the doctor? Well, that's not okay. Here's why you should rejoice in suffering. And it's a hard lesson to learn because if we look back in verses 3 and 4, we know that trial produces endurance. Endurance to get through it. That trial, as I have on the slides, you see that trial equals endurance. So you start off with something terrible, right? Something that hurts, something that is painful, something that you're suffering. And then you get endurance. Endurance to get through it. Endurance to get through whatever trial it is. Okay? But then that's not even it. We get character. It equals character. Character for the next time. Because some trials aren't a one and done. Some are, but some aren't. Some keep coming back. Sometimes for the rest of your life. That's character. Because you are able to, next time it happens, you know what to do. You know what it's like. You know how to deal with it. Or you know who to go to help. But not only that, character's two-sided because character can also help somebody else. Because if I went through something and I went through a trial, I went through suffering, and then I have a friend, a brother, a sister that is hurting. They're going through the same thing I went through. You can help them because you have felt that pain. You have felt that suffering. And they're just now going through it. You may not be able to completely understand their whole entire situation because they are a different person. But what you can do is be there for them and say, I've been through this. I know it hurts. Let's talk about it. Let's get you through it. And that will make it so much easier for that person going through the same thing you did. That is character. And then character now produces hope. Hope for eternal life. Hope to one day be up there with God. Hope that there's more to just this temporary life. Hope that we'll get to spend eternity with our Father. Hope that we will get to heaven. So that is the reaction, the equation, however you want to call it. I was never good at math or science, okay? But this equation I can understand. Trial equals endurance equals character equals hope. Hope for eternal life. And now, sometimes it's hard to go through trials, and we need peace. And so, peace is the next thing I want to talk about. Peace with God. Because I can promise you right now, you will not find peace on your own. You will not find peace on this earth. We have seen, I don't even watch the news, and I've seen it all. I've seen what's going on, especially with social media nowadays. We see everything that's going on. And there is no peace, not in this nation, not in this world. I don't think there ever will be. Because people don't like peace. But we want to find peace. It's really weird. But we can find peace with God, because true peace can only be found in God. We cannot do it on our own. We cannot have salvation. We cannot have that hope if we don't have salvation. But another thing that will help you find peace is talking to God, praying to God. If you let God know, He will give you peace. Philippians 4, 6-7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. He gives us a peace. When we talk to Him, when we send our cares to Him, He gives us a peace. A peace that we cannot understand. A loving peace. God will give you peace. He knows what you're going through. Don't ever think that you're alone or no one hears or understands what you're going through. Because God does. God understands exactly what you're going through. But He wants to hear you say it. He wants to hear you talk to Him. And when you do that, you mix that prayer and the salvation, mix that together, go to the end of the equation, hope, realizing that everything is temporary, because that's the truth of it. These walls are temporary. This is temporary. We are temporary. We are not infinite. But we will be when we're up there. If you have that salvation. If you've been baptized and are a following, loving Christian, you will have a hope that no one will understand. Because you know that you're getting somewhere else. You have an end goal. Your end goal is not anywhere here. You may be blessed here beyond all measure, but it's not going to matter once you're there. And that's peace. Knowing that you can get through something and know that there's an end. There is an end. It may be terrible right now, but the peace you will get knowing that there is more will help. But the peace you'll get when you're there, when you're up there with Him, beyond all understanding. So to wrap this up, to go back to the equation. We're all suffering right now. We all have one similar trial, but everybody has another one, at least. Everybody goes through trials. Life is rough. But if we start with that terrible trial and we get that endurance to go through it, we'll get character. Character not only to help us the next time it happens, but to help somebody else. And what great a feeling it is to help other people. What a great feeling it is, especially in this congregation, to help somebody that is hurting, to help them because they are hurting. We don't want them to hurt. We don't want them to hurt, but they are. But we can help them. And then lastly, that character turns into hope. Hope that we'll get to heaven. But we can't get to heaven unless we understand that we have that hope and that we have salvation. So if you need to make your prayers known to the church or you need to get your faith right in baptism, please come while we stand and as we sing.